He's going to drop from the sky. There he is. So now, of course, the goal is to not get shot to death, which can happen pretty easily as a melee character. Which is what I am, first and foremost. Alright. Alright, so you can see the electric fields around me. I gotta make sure to stay out of those as best as I possibly can. And look at that, I got an exotic weapon. I got Final Rest. Now, if this were the beginning of the game, I would have been super excited, because that actually would have been worth some money at one point, but we're looking at 2 gold, 17 silver, etc., etc. So, we're just gonna sell that off. Can't even count the number of players we have on here. I've seen bigger groups, don't get me wrong. There we go, giant jungle worm appears. Intimidating. At least to a novice player. There we go, this will be away from some of the noise. Say hi to the champion platform master, the one who actually spawns the golem. Welcome back, another stream, Unreal with Unreal Gaming, coming at you with some Guild Wars 2. Some very laggy Guild Wars 2, because we're in the middle of a very, very densely populated instance, and we're all lining up for the world boss, Giant Jungle Worm. One of the dailies for this evening. We got that world boss popping up in a little bit under a minute. I'm sitting here with my commander tag on, was attempting to try and draw the attention of some of the people. Now we get a whole bunch of people, and we get a couple more commanders showing up. That little, affectionately nicknamed Dorito above my character's head here. My character, by the way, is my guardian. Level 80 human guardian. I do have the Dragon Hunter Elite spec unlocked for this character as well, but I stuck with my Guardian build because it's worked really, really well for me in both PvP and PvE. Haven't had to change a thing. And we're chilling out until the reset, which should be very, very soon. A lot of these world bosses have pre-events that you need to complete. This one is no exception, but you're looking at the pre-event right here. You have 3 of these guys pop up. You down them as quick as you can. I try to see if I can fight all 3 of them and kill all 3 of them, because each one drops a exotic bag or exotic chest, whatever you want to call it. There's one. I can never make it to all 3. Yep, there's an example right there. Couldn't make it to that one. I was able to make it to this one. You have to do enough damage to be considered eligible for the loot drop. Alright, I got the chest out of that one, so it's my usual 2 out of 3. Can't even count the number of players we have on here. I've seen bigger groups, don't get me wrong. There we go, giant jungle worm appears. Intimidating. At least to a novice player. This is probably one of the easiest world bosses to kill. There's not much of an art to this. Especially as a guardian, you get to basically just sit here and hit it with your sword over and over again until it dies. My words of wisdom as a commander is just to press the number 1 a lot. And that's pretty much it. That's all there is to it. Being the generous guardian that I am, I'll also activate a few shouts to give the people near me some buffs. I'm immune to knockbacks if I use certain skills like Stand Your Ground, so I don't have to worry about the worm knocking me over into the poison gas that it spawns outside. And with Aegis, these shielding skills here, I'm largely immune to the damage it puts out. So I'm not worried at all. Can pretty much operate here with impunity. Down he goes. That's the end of Jungle Worm. It's probably one of the least impressive world bosses you're going to see. I'm not all that impressed with Frozen Maw, and this is way easier than Frozen Maw. Alrighty, well now that that's taken care of, I'm going to keep on heading on here and go do some other things. I got 2 more daily activities I got to take care of. And I should be able to complete both of them in pretty short order. I'll at least harvest a few things while I'm out here. Notice how much the frame rate improved once all those people left. There's always things you can do to try to improve frame rate. One of them is, of course, turning down the visible player count. Another one is to turn down shadows, stuff like that. All those things make a difference. Though it gets to a point where you're running into expansions like Heart of Thorns, or you're running into big groups of players like this with a elaborate world boss that has elaborate animations. There's really not much you can do to keep your frame rate up. Guild Wars 2 definitely has some problems with optimization once you get to the higher detail levels, and especially on the newer expansions. Core game is a little bit more forgiving due to its age. This game also has more elaborate magic spell effects than some other MMOs. I've been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls Online. Well, when I say a lot of Elder Scrolls Online, like a couple of hours a week. But I've been playing ESO lately, and that game, despite the fact that it's a couple years newer, I believe it's either 2 or maybe even 3 years newer than Guild Wars 2 is, does not wow me visually. Oh, look at that. Is this a boss? Jungle Troll Chieftain. Not much of a boss. Alright. Didn't intend to assist anybody, just kind of walked into that one, quite literally, as you all saw. I'll probably take off my commander tag now. Well, while I'm here, I should probably, I'll tell you what, I'll even do it while I go in here to get this copper vein. I'll explain the Guardian I have to you guys if I haven't before. I don't think I've done a video on the Guardian beforehand. So the Guardian is similar to what you might see from a traditional Templar or something like that in a different role-playing game, be it Elder Scrolls or whatever else. The idea is you're using holy magic. The class is predominantly supposed to be the role of a tank, but you can certainly use it for damage. You can use it to healing to a certain extent. Very versatile. Great amount of survivability if you're the solo type of player. It's a wonderful class, and the way I have it set up, this is not intended to do the most damage possible. It's not intended to be a team healer, and it's not intended to give you the best tanking possible. This is something that offers me a good balance of everything, and this particular build I'm running was initially designed for PvP, and I've certainly used it with good success in team-based PvP, the arena, not, well, I shouldn't even say that. I've used it in Edge of the Mist as well, and it does work there, but this is designed for arena PvP. Smaller maps, small player counts, and this is done really well. It's I found it very difficult for other players to kill me using this build, and I'll try to explain why. Let me just get to a different map here. We'll go to Kryta, so we're going to have to mine around there anyway. Kryta being a region inside of Tyria, the continent that we have here. Let's go over to Beetleton Waypoint. Nice, easy area to go to, very quiet. Not really any activity out here. Not in the immediate vicinity, anyway. So I'll explain the build a little bit more in depth. So you can see my hotbar down at the bottom here. I guess before I even get into that, I'll just go with my equipment here. So a lot of my earlier builds are based around power, precision, ferocity. Those three traits on all of your armor and weapons are kind of the cop-out build, no matter what spec, or excuse me, not what spec, what class you run, doesn't really matter. Power, precision, ferocity is all about hard hits and really good critical hits, critical strikes. This is not one of those builds. Power, precision, and ferocity are all featured here, yes, but part of your build that you can see here for your armor is going to be healing power and also toughness. You can see depending on what piece of armor I'm mousing over here, these different things trade out. But the weapons are power, precision, ferocity. Trinkets are power, precision, ferocity, and power, toughness, vitality. And the idea is to try to give you, yes, a lot of hard hits, but also to give you a reasonably sized health pool and the healing power. That's nice. Anyway, the idea is to be able to heal yourself as well in combat. You are going to have to rely on yourself. This is not like the first Guild Wars game where you had dedicated healers. There is no monk class, unfortunately. You can argue the Guardian's kind of, sort of taken its place. All the classes now have their own self-heals. And they're all effective to one degree or another. It's, arguable depending on the class, but Guardian is pretty self-sustainable. This is a class that I think... I'm certainly in favor of having alternative builds to this class, but I don't think this class has really needed any kind of a change since the inception of the game. This has worked well for me in pretty much every version of Guild Wars 2, whether it's the core game, Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, or whatever. Anyway, so now that I showed you the gear, which, by the way, is a sword and focus, you can see the Aegis kind of built into my... gauntlet there, and also the greatsword. And the skin that I'm using for everything, I have Dark Templar armor, which is a PvP skin you can get, dyed white with blue accents. I have a cape. This is something that was featured in the gem store a while back. This is called the Ice Reaver cape. Dyed it in such a way where it matches the armor, so it's basically same color of blue with white accents. So I think goes along pretty well. I have a Mist-Forged Heroes Greatsword. Get that little bit of I don't know if you'd call that a cloud or whatever that is coming off the blade, plus a little bit of glowing accents in the middle. And then for my sword, I have Jormag's Breath, which is a type of exotic weapon you can get from the Jormag World boss. In the first game, this used to be called an Icy Dragon Sword. Can't speak tonight, as usual. The Icy Dragon Sword was the counterpart to the Fiery Dragon Sword that King Rurik carried in the first game, or in this game, Ritlock. If you know Ritlock, one of the major allies you have, he carries a Fiery Dragon Sword with him, so I carry an Icy Dragon Sword. I don't remember what focus this is. It might be King's Remembrance, so let me see what it is. Knowledge is power, so along the same lines. Anyway, and to explain the bar, so let me get away from these NPCs. They keep talking too much for my liking. Get away from the people with the dialogue. I can't believe I can still hear them out here. That's such a long... Those are very loud talkers. Anyway. So for the hotbar, first of all, you have the virtues up here. These are things you have as a guardian. They're not necessarily the same quality of skills these are. You can kind of guess just based on what these icons usually mean in various games. So shield, as you might imagine, it gives you some shielding. It gives you Aegis periodically. Over here, Virtue Resolve, this little icon that we have here, represents health in some games, and yes, it does indeed give you a small heal. Over here, Virtue of Justice, the fist kind of signifies it's going to be an offensive attack, and indeed it is an offensive attack that gives burning, as well as might and retaliation, a couple of other little buffs, but these help you survive during combat. You have the main strike, Whirling Wrath, which is skill that you saw earlier. Leap of Faith allows you to charge at a foe very quickly. You have Symbol of Wrath, which is an AoE skill. You have things like Binding Blade, which you can shoot out kind of like the kunai from Mortal Kombat. Hit somebody with that. You can then hit it again to pull them into the AoE if you so desire. Stand Your Ground, which is an anti-knockback skill, plus it's also something where you can break a stun if you've already been stunned. It allows you to get right back up, as is the case with Save Yourselves. Save Yourself will also grant you all kinds of neat little buffs that you can see on there. Might, protection, regeneration, swiftness, all that good stuff. Over here and Hold the Line, more regen, condition removal. Renewed Focus for the elite skill. You can see here it makes yourself invulnerable and it recharges these virtues up here above your hotbar. So it can be a way of kind of staving off inevitable death. It's not necessarily a reversal, but perhaps if you time things just right, things like Shelter, that'll be crucial skill as well, blocks attacks while you're healing. And then if we go over to the single sword and focus, you have Symbol of Blades, which will teleport you immediately to the person you're trying to attack and blind them. You then have Zealot's Defense. Throws out a cone of damage, pretty decent distance in front of you. Ray of Judgment, which is a smite skill left over from the first game. Ray of Judgment was actually a monk skill. It used to, as a matter of fact, used to be an elite skill for the monk. Pretty much the only decent smite skill that ever existed, in my opinion, Ray of Judgment. And then you have Shield of Wrath. Again, allows you to block some attacks there, which is very helpful. And that's pretty much it. And then for switching between weapons, we put on Sigil of Fire, Sigil of Energy. The Sigil of Fire is designed to give a flame burst. So basically, if you are attacking somebody with the Great Sword, you use up your skills, you want to switch weapons. As you hit the little tilde key on your keyboard, once you do your weapon swap, if somebody's standing within a certain amount of feet of you, it sets them on fire. And I have that or something similar to that on pretty much all of my melee classes. I either have Sigil of Fire, or I might have something like Poison Sigil or Leeching or something like that. Anything that will punish players for standing next to me trying to attack me directly. I find those very helpful. Anyway, but the build is not designed by me. This is something designed by somebody much more dedicated to the game than I was, who designed it for PvP combat, but it also happens to work out really, really well in PvE and keep me alive. You can take on multiple players with this build. I'm not saying you're going to win every single engagement, and I wouldn't go picking 5-on-1 fights or anything like that. But I've been able to survive 2 or 3 people attacking me at the same time before. Long enough for my teammates to intervene and balance the odds back out 50-50. So anyway, now that that's done, let's continue on with the dailies here. For those of you who do not have a Guardian, might be considering the class, yeah, I would definitely highly recommend it. I love every class in this game. I used to have real bias towards spellcasters and rogue classes like your thieves, rangers, whatever, but I've grown to love everything that this game has to offer. But the Guardian is a very safe choice if this is your first foray into MMO games, role-playing games, whatever genre you want to call upon here. It's a very safe choice because it gives you a fairly authentic feel in terms of combat. If you want to, I wouldn't say role play, but if you want to experience combat the way combat would have been in the 1300s, 1400s, whatever, this will give you the same sword and board combat that a warrior would give you, but it also includes a lot more magic. So if you'd like to do some spells and enchantments and stuff like that, Guardian is going to be able to keep you satisfied on that front. It also will do group healing. It'll also do group protection and give people buffs. These are shouts, by the way, so things like Save Yourselves and Hold the Line, these affect everybody around you, not just yourself. So this is a great support class. And because of the aforementioned healing, it's a great durability class. So if you choose to be an attacker and you pick up Thief, people who aren't familiar with these types of games may not realize that a thief is pretty easy to kill under the right circumstances. They don't wear heavy armor. This class does, so besides the heavy armor, if you combine that with the protection skills that we have here, plus the healing ability, this is a class where it's okay for you to get in there, mix it up, and it affords you a little bit of leeway to make mistakes. So this is not the first level 80 I created, that was my warrior. But once I get that character to 80 and I got over the hump, all the other level 80 characters that I had subsequently, everything just kind of fell in line and became so much easier after that. But if you're out there, you're watching this video, you're playing Guild Wars, but you don't have a level 80 yet, and you want something that does some good melee damage, but you're not going to get your ass handed to you, Guardian is a great choice. I would highly recommend that. So let's take care of this last daily. What I'm going to do, actually, is I could do Sparkfly Fen Event Completer, but what I'm actually going to do is head back to Divinity's Reach and do the Mystic Forger. And the reason I'm going to do that is just for simple ease purposes. It's a lot easier. Some of the events in Sparkfly Fen can be pretty cool. One of them is Tocatl, which is probably one of the most elaborate and hard to succeed at world bosses. Not because it's, you know, does crazy amounts of damage, and Tocatl can hurt you, don't make any mistake about it, but Tocatl requires a lot of coordination if you're going to beat the event. And that's not always the case, unfortunately. Oh, look at that, I got an exotic without even noticing it. Let's see what this sells for. Gold 25. Look at that, it's a focus. Basically made out of a root, looks like. Really, I'm saving those exotic salvage kits specifically for things that are going to be exotic level or higher. I'm not going to use them on yellow items, green items, blue items, certainly not white items, whatever. So we got a couple of rare materials. We got some silk, we got some ectoplasm. Not really too interested in the rest of the stuff.
Goodbye.
Just gonna stack these up here. Let's see where we're at for equipment here. Just about out of axe swings, but I have another one ready to go over here in my inventory, so I'll keep that where it is. And what I'm going to do is run over here to the Mystic Forge. And what I normally do, which I might have discussed in another video, I can't really remember, is I'll go over to a particular weapon that I'm interested in, let's say a greatsword if I want a precursor. This is how you're supposed to get a legendary, ideally. Go find yourself weapon like this. You need a total of 4 of them. Can be the same, can be different ones, doesn't really matter. Buy 4 of them instantly off the trading post, auction house, whatever you want to call it. You got to go over to the Mystic Forge, aka the Mystic Toilet, as some veteran players call it. And that's because you're going to take 4 of these items that you just paid money for, and you're going to flush it down the toilet.
Never have too much treasure.
Because that's what you're going to get in return. You're supposed to be able to have a rare chance to get yourself a precursor, which would not be a yellow item, it would be a gold item, and then you can use that precursor plus some other stuff you have to grind your ass off for to make a legendary weapon. Normally it's a waste of money, and normally what I end up doing is either selling this directly back to the trading post, or I will just use the salvage kit that I had there and just simply
That looks valuable.
salvage it for the materials.
My time is precious.
I'm just going to go over to my bank guild real quick and put some more of those mystic coins in there. Unfortunately, there are some items that you can't store in the guild banks. And rather than take the space up in my own bank, I will use the guild bank whenever possible. Sometimes you can't do that, so you got to occupy your own bank space or your own inventory space. So now that I've done that, that really about clinches it as far as today's dailies go. Not the longest video in the world for obvious reasons. What I need to figure out is where I was last time. I think last time I was in here was probably on my Elementalist. I don't know if I just want to grind more Path of Fire stories, so I'll tell you what I might do. Let me pause this. What I'm going to do is take a look at the world bosses that I have. We'll do 1 or 2 more. Since we're in the same map, we'll make a little small world boss tour. We're going to go do Shadow Behemoth. What you weren't able to see me do off screen is I alt-tabbed and took a look at the world boss timer, and there's a couple of different ways to look that up on the internet. My preferred website for that is the Dragon Timer or Temple Timer. If you Google that, you'll find the website. And you could pick it by individual server that you belong to, or you can also pick Mega Server, I think, or it might default to Mega Server now since they did a lot of server merging. And what it'll tell you is when each boss is going to reset. Now, I do want to remind people out there, the boss reset time is not necessarily when the boss just pops out of the ground like the Jungle Worm did. The reset time is going to refer to when the boss is available for triggering, and most bosses, not all of them, but most bosses that I can think of require a pre-event, a setup event, if you will. And those have to be completed, otherwise the boss won't show. And there is a window, so after the reset reaches 0, you have a window of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, to get the boss to pop up. Then the fight's on. But then and only then will the fight be on. If you don't do the pre-event, boss isn't going to show up. Doesn't matter if it's reset time or not. And if you do what we used to refer to as the world boss train, you go from world boss to world boss, and that's all you do. You're just there to grind materials and whatever. You can do that, and you're going to end up using a website like Temple Timer to look up all those world bosses, see which one you need to travel to next. You can even use the PHP script the website has in there to check off when you've done a world boss. That way, if you're going around the horn, so to speak, you don't repeat the same boss by accident. So we've checked off Jungle Worm. Well, I should say I didn't literally check it off. I have it checked off up here. Not much up there, but I'm at least able to remember that I checked off Jungle Worm. So we've done that boss already. Shadow Behemoth is another fairly easy to do one that comes next. So there are 2 setups that you have to do for this. First one is a kind of a miniature quest that I believe is done way over there someplace where my character's looking, kind of near Finney Waypoint. And the other one is you're going to see a whole bunch of those green portals. I think one of them will probably pop up eventually. There'll be green portals that are set up in kind of a semicircle around where the boss will eventually spawn. Know why he's dying. And once those portals come up, you can go around, knock all of them out, and then eventually the Shadow Behemoth will spawn and you can start fighting the boss. There's the portal. There's one way back there.
Kill rising.
I'm basically doing the exact same thing I did as last time. So any of you out there who are just getting their first commander tag or whatever else, if you're not using it for the purposes of PvP, which is what it was originally supposed to be for, this is what you use it for PvE. If you're going to be on the map with everybody else, the 2 times I would really, well, yeah, I guess 2 times. The 2 times I would really use this would be to A, if I want to mark something important. And that could be a jumping puzzle, it could be a world boss event, an important location on the map, if you need to go there to farm materials or resources, whatever. And then the second would be if you're doing events. So if you, let's say I didn't do Mystic Forger and I wanted to do Sparkfly Fen Event Completer, and I wanted to go from event to event, I kind of consider it somewhat of a responsibility. If you've been playing a long time, you want to help out the community, and especially if you have a commander tag, put your tag on, and once you find an event, let everybody in map know where it is. Put out a place like this. Put out a location they can click on, and tell them it's by the blue tag or the pink tag or whatever else. That way they can come follow you if you're on the move. They know what to look for on the map. Even if they don't know the area per se, you can give them a nearby waypoint like Finney Waypoint. link it in chat just the way I did, and then put blue tag, and then Shadow Behemoth. And that's it. And of course, with a world boss, being that these are fairly desirable events to do, they can give you some decent loot, and they give you a chance at ascended weapon drops or armor drops or whatever. I think that's actually only weapon drops, but nevertheless, gives you ascended drops in some cases. It's a desirable event to do, plus these can often be daily events, as you saw earlier with the Jungle Worm, so veteran players who've done this many times before, it's not their first rodeo, they're going to show up here anyway. As soon as they see the blue commander tag, they know what it's for, they know where to show up. And I will forewarn people out there who may be watching, anybody who wants to do these world bosses, some of these you can just show up for and you're going to find an instance that can take them down no problem. Shadow Behemoth, Jungle Worm, Frozen Maw, they're not really all that hard. Now, when you start talking about Shatterer, or Tecotl, or Triple Trouble, Jormag, certain bosses out there require more coordination and a lot more damage to take down. Karka Queen, you need a lot of raw DPS to get that done. So, some of those events, it's going to behoove you to show up ahead of time. So any world boss that you want to do, you seriously want a good chance of taking the boss out and not failing it. Especially, again, stuff like Tecotl or Triple Trouble, Shatterer, I would highly advise you to show up there at least 15 to 20 minutes early. And yes, I see the down player, I'll revive him in a second. There we go. So, now that that pre-setup has been done, here's Shadow Behemoth. Now, despite the boss being way over there, I'm actually able to attack it from right here. You can see the numbers popping up even though I'm not anywhere near it. So all you're doing, basically, not much of a big strategy to this of any kind. You're literally attacking its jaw until you stop seeing your target reticle. Once that goes away, you need to go back here, and to get it to pop up again, make it available for attack another time, you need to destroy all these portals. All of them gotta go. Faster the better, because again, the boss does have an expiration date, so to speak. It does have a timer. And your job, in order to not die, is to not stand on those red circles you saw. Don't stand under his hands, stay out of any red circles you might see, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Other than that, you kind of stand in the group that you see here, and do as much damage you can within that short time window that you have. Once again, yes, I see the down player. When you get to a world boss like this, common etiquette among most experienced players is if you're going to go down like that, you go to the nearest waypoint and come back. People are going to be wanting to do hits on the boss to make sure they get credit for the events. They're not going to be picking your ass up off the ground if you die. And if you go AFK here, it kind of is what it is. There you go, Shadow Behemoth is done. So, that's the reward for Shadow Behemoth. You get the chest plus anything you picked up off of them. And look at that, I got an exotic weapon, I got Final Rest. Now if this were the beginning of the game, I would have been super excited, because that actually would have been worth some money at one point, but we're looking at 2 gold, 17 silver, etc., etc. So, we're just going to sell that off. Not bad all in all. So now that that's all taken care of, let me get rid of the commander tag again. And what I'm going to do is go back to the Dragon Timer website here. So we have a choice of 2 different events that we can do here. We can either do Karka Queen or we can do Golem Mark II. Let me mark off that I did Jungle Worm just in case I decide to be stupid and forget what I did. And I prefer Golem Mark II. It's just a personal preference. So let me pull the game back up. I'll do one more world boss here before I switch to another game. Let me see if I can remember by heart where it is. Should be around here somewhere. There it is. So I'll explain both events anyway, since I'm not going to have time to show both of them to you. Some of these bosses do overlap and occur at the exact same time, so you have to make a choice as to which one you're going to do. Look at all those buffs that popped up when I hit the Save Yourself shout. And this is an AoE buff, mind you, so any ally standing in the vicinity is going to get that buff now. I'm telling you, this is a really useful class. Matter of fact, there's another Guardian right there. She-Spect is a Dragon Hunter, but we have the same base class. So the boss that I'm at right now is Golem Mark II. You can see the Mark I golems that we have here. They're basically just robots, glorified robots, built by the Asura, that little mouse, rat race, whatever this is. Whatever kind of species you want to call them. And it's basically a giant robot, drops in out of the sky. It has some really powerful electrical attacks, area of effect you really got to watch out for. Very tough to avoid if you're a AoE player like me, so you're going to see my attempts to avoid the electrical attacks. I used to have it down to a science when I was playing this game on the regular. But it's been a while. Normally I just take the easy way out and I will fire off range shots with a class that can do damage at a long distance, like a ranger or a elementalist or mesmer or whatever. Anyway, it drops in out of the sky, you beat the crap out of it, you get the rewards, same as Shadow Behemoth, that's pretty much it. The other boss that I could be doing instead of this one, since they both occur at the same time, is I could be doing Karka Queen. Karka Queen is basically a giant crab. You find that in South Sun Cove, and let me see if I can find the island here. You find him in South Sun Cove, you go over down here to the Camp Karka waypoint, that's where you find her. And that's arguably a little bit more dangerous in some regards. Not so much that it's a boss that does as much damage all at once as the electrical field here, but it's mobile. It can knock you down and it can one-shot you if it catches you. This boss actually used to be really easy to take care of because there was a little chest over here that you could stand on at one point. And if you were standing on top of the chest, you would be out of the electrical field. The boss couldn't hit you with it, so you could just stand over here and lob attacks at him from a distance. But after, I don't even know how many years, probably 2-3 years, possibly more, they finally removed the box so you can't stand on it anymore. So now you have to do it the hard way. You either gotta attack him up close and personal, or you gotta stand back here for a while. Eventually his AoE attacks go all the way out to the steps, and then you have to run down here until his AoE goes away. But in the grand scheme of things, again, this is not a hard boss. One thing, of course, now, it's been several minutes since I last talked to everybody about that. I neglected to show you the actual mechanics of the builds. So, can't really go to a place where it's all that quiet, unfortunately. I can try to move over here for a bit. Let's get away from some of the ambient noise. How about this? There we go. This will be away from some of the noise. Say hi to the champion platform master, the one who actually spawns the golem. Anyway, so let's go to the mechanics of the build. So obviously I'm a Guardian. I don't have any of the elite specs up. And that's intentional. It's the way this is built. So this build was actually in existence before the Dragon Hunter existed and before the, whatever the other one's called. The, was it Firebrand? The Firebrand. Before that, these two things existed. There was the normal Guardian. That's what I'm working off of. So if you take a look at the first tree, I have Valor. So Aegis, very important to try to block attacks. You don't have to worry about healing attacks if you don't get hit with them in the first place. So Aegis is important, trying to maintain that as much as you can. Lose conditions every interval. As a Guardian, you're going to be hit with everything under the sun besides base damage to try to take you down. So lose conditions, be it a snare, be it poison, fire, bleed. It helps to just have those drop off you. More shielding. Good to have toughness, again, to kind of resist the damage. You're not going to be able to avoid everything in the world, so the stuff that does hit you, toughness helps. Gain might whenever you block an attack. You're going to be blocking a lot because you have Aegis a lot. Heal yourself when you grant a boon to an ally. You're going to be using these shouts quite a bit, so when you have teammates nearby, you're going to gain health. Go down here to Honor Path. Gain Vigor, so Endurance is definitely helpful for dodging. You can see here some more healing, Shield of Absorption, and Protective Reviver. That's that blue bubble you saw when I was trying to revive somebody up there. Shield of Absorption is going to come up whenever you try to revive an ally. End of your dodge rolls, heals nearby allies. Helpful for obvious reasons. More Aegis. Virtue Skill also regenerates Endurance. Once again, very helpful. Let me see. Conditions to boons. Go down to Virtues. Applies boons to allies when activated. Might, regen, protection. More regeneration, more Aegis. Retaliation to reflect some of the incoming damage back to its source. So when you activate the Virtues, these things up here, it's going to remove 2 conditions from nearby allies. So more condition removal. Let's see, increased damage for each boon on you, and you're going to have a bunch because you can see all the boons that these shouts give, plus the boons you can get off of these virtues. Let me see, and active effective virtue skill 3 breaks stun and grants stability to nearby allies. So breaking a stun if you get knocked down, very helpful. Stability, so you yourself don't get knocked down, again, very helpful. And this is designed for PvP usage, but it works great in PvE. I'm able to withstand damage from pretty much any source. There are bosses I do not want to pick a fight with. I'm not going to be soloing any world bosses. I'm probably not going to be soloing a good half of the champions that you can find out in the world. One of the folks out here put out a guild banner. Gives you all these little boosts down here. It's very nice of them. And again, I want to reiterate the reason why I'm out here long before the boss shows up is so I can get a good seat. If you come in late, you're not going to get into the instance with a bunch of people to kill the boss that know what they're doing. Or even if they don't know what they're doing, if you have an instance with 50 people, you're going to have enough raw damage to kill it eventually. If you come in at the last second, or you come in after it spawns, you're not going to be in this instance. You're going to be in an overflow instance. You're going to be in an instance with 10 people, and you're not going to kill the boss. So that's going to be, a half hour of your life that you wasted. And I'm sure some of you out there don't play video games. First of all, why the hell are you watching this? But second of all, those of you who don't play games a lot, don't like them, whatever, I'm sure you think that we're wasting our lives already. And you can make that argument, but you're really wasting it if you don't take out the boss that you intended to take out. Anyway, now that I've explained the basics of that build to you guys and explained the basics of the boss, we're going to wait for it to show up. Let me see how much time we got total. Looks like we got 1 minute and 22 seconds until not till the boss shows up, but until the event resets. So whatever the pre-event is, I think you have to run around here and kill some drakes, and you got to reset these, not the crystals themselves. These things pop out of the ground. I think you have to reset these little lanterns or whatever and activate them, and then eventually the boss spawns. You run back up here and you fight it. pretty much all there is to it. Back before the days of raids and stuff like that, before fractals, this used to be a decent way of making money. It wasn't the most lucrative thing you could do. Still isn't, certainly. But it was an activity that might be a little bit less boring than dungeon running, and dungeon rewards would, reduce the more that you did them. So this was an okay way of making money. If you didn't want to do PvP, you didn't have the gear to do fractals, or the patience, or the teammates, you could show up here with a bunch of random people, not have to queue for an instance, you just show up, get some loot, sell it off, or keep it if it's an Ascendant drop, do whatever it is you want to do with it. And the world boss train, as we called it, was... there we go. That's the setup. That was something you could do just casually, and I did. I would come into Guild Wars, and rather than play the story or anything like that, I would just come in and run the world boss train. Just put on some music in the background, wait around at the various world bosses, kill them, move on to the next one, kill them, move on to the next one, kill them, move on to the next one. Simple enough. Not sure why that Revenant has that skill set on right now.
Waste disposal protocol initiating in T-2 minutes and counting.
Well, might as well do something while I'm doing nothing. I'll head out here and chop down a tree, get some crafting materials, why not? For all that crafting that I don't do.
T-1 minute and counting until hazardous material evacuation. Return to platform to limit exposure.
So this is certainly not the largest group of players that I've ever seen for this event, but it should suffice. Generally speaking, unless this was the old days of the game, or unless it's a World Boss daily event, like the Jungle Worm was, you're not going to see that kind of player volume at a World Boss. And when I say that, I mean player volume to the point where it makes your computer slow. Possible exceptions to that would be bosses that just require a pure volume of people that high. If you are doing Tecatl and you get a good instance for Tecatl. There we are.
Activation sequence initiated.
Ouch. You ever get an eyelash in your eye for, like, literally zero reason? Alright, so the pre-event has been finished, and now we're going to go into the world boss scenario. He's going to drop from the sky. There he is. So now, of course, the goal is to not get shot to death, which can happen pretty easily as a melee character, which is what I am, first and foremost. Alright. Alright, so you can see the electric fields around me. I gotta make sure to stay out of those as best as I possibly can. And with all the magic effects that we have around here, it can be downright hard to see. You get all these player name placards on the screen. So you gotta be right on that dodge key. You gotta be ready to dodge at any given point. Otherwise you're gonna get, not necessarily one-shot. Well, you know what? On a casting class, you probably will get one-shotted. And even on a heavy armor character like this, it doesn't take much. But if you're gonna melee this thing, Guardian is probably the best class to survive that on. Look at all the dead people around his feet. And again, when I have to tend to my own survival, am I gonna be all that worried about reviving those people? No, not really. Making pretty decent progress. We're about 2/3 health right now. Up. See that? A little chunk of my health got taken up from standing in that electricity just for a second. Just trying to keep my health up. I've died at this event plenty, make no mistake about it. I prefer not to if I'm showing this to you as a demonstration of how to do the event. I'd prefer not to die. Sometimes it is what it is. Oh, look at that. See that? That was close. I'll even pop my lead skill. There we go. Oh no, 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 no. Come on. There we go. Very painful. Almost at 1/3 of health right now. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Come on. Saw Revenant back there popping off his stability skill. Or her stability skill. Look at all the melee players who died around here. I'm telling you, it does not take much. Oops. No, no, no. Oh, I got downed. Yep, and I'm dead. So, following proper world boss protocol for veterans of the game, don't sit there and screw around. Be a contributing member. Don't just sit there and wait for somebody to revive you, because they're not going to do it. They got other stuff to do. Go respawn at the waypoint. Get back in there. That electricity is something else. There we go. Boss is dead. And the chest is actually over here, near where the crate used to be.
You can never have too much treasure.
Now and only now will you get revived. And again, that's important to people who may have actually gotten into a decent instance despite showing up late. If you come in there, you do what you think is a hit or two to the boss, and then you die immediately, you may not get credit. You may not get credit if you just lie there and wait to be revived. It's quite possible that you may not get credit. Do as many hits and get as much damage in on that boss as you possibly can. Don't just sit there, go respawn and run back. Do whatever it is you gotta do. Alright, so let's sort through a little bit of the loot. I don't think I got much stuff of interest, to be honest with you. And you normally won't.
At your service.
This is not the most lucrative way
You can never
to
have
play the
too
game,
much treasure.
but it can make you a little bit of decent money if you're looking to experience some different world bosses.
Seek, and you shall find.
Travel across all the different parts of the continent that you're given here. And it's going to be a way of getting an ascended weapon without having to craft it.
I know you'll face.
I was forced to craft my own ascended armor, but I thankfully did not have to take up weaponsmithing to get a ascended greatsword. I was fortunate enough to get a couple of ascended drops within reasonably short time of each other. The first one I ever did was playing against Tecatl. I got a sunless weapon drop, and it was a single-hand longsword, excuse me. Not quite what I wanted. I'm not a sword and shield guy in this game. I usually use a greatsword, but cool little weapon, cool skin, and it was ascended. And eventually you can change the stats of ascended weapons. It is possible to do that, so it wasn't a total loss. But I don't know, about a month later, 2 months later, whatever it was, I was fortunate enough to be on my Ranger, and I was at the Frozen Maw world boss, which is a very low-level world boss, mind you. It's in Wayfarer Foothills, which I think is a kind of like a starting area. Yeah, 1 to 15, it's a starting area. And the boss is kind of in between Vendrake's homestead and Krennic's homestead. Right about over, I think, about here. And killed him, and on my Ranger I got a ascended drop. And I was able to get an ascended greatsword out of that, so I said, oh, I'm taking that back to my bank, and stuck it in my bank, got on my warrior, and there we go. Got an ascended greatsword with power, precision, ferocity stats. That was the desirable stats to have at the time. So I got lucky. And whether it comes down to the Mystic Forge, Mystic Toilet, whatever you want to call it, whether it comes to precursors.
You'll find everything you need.
So let me see, I think there was Sunlight and Twilight.
Responsibility isn't easy.
Getting the precursors for these things, it's all about luck. Unless you're lucky, you ain't getting that. Unless you're rich. That's the other option. And I've got some money on me, but I don't have 2,444 gold. 1175 and 2444 are very different numbers. Anyway, hopefully those of you watching, I apologize it was a shorter video tonight. I want to get another game in on here before I call it quits for the evening. I do have work to deal with tomorrow. But hopefully this is educational for a couple of people who might want to learn how to do some basic mechanics of the different world bosses out there. World bosses can be fun. If you haven't experienced them before, you've been doing other stuff in the game, or you're looking for something else to do, world bosses are good. It's a group activity. You can, get recruited into a guild that way, form a guild that way. If you know the world bosses and you want to make that regular activity, you want to get a dedicated group of players who know how to do Tecatl, who know how to do Shatterer, whatever else, you can form a guild based off that. Nothing wrong with doing that. And there are some guilds that specialize in that. Triple Trouble, it's probably the hardest world boss you can do in this game, in the core game, quite arguably. And there was a guild created for that. It was called Triple Trouble Squad. If you see TTS in this game, whether it's Tecatl Taxi Squad, Triple Trouble Squad, any variation and play on words of that acronym, that's the same guild. Eventually, you run out of spots, so that's actually the same guild. They're all sister guilds to each other. Same group of people are in control of it. And that was created initially just to finish Triple Trouble, because the randoms in this game could not do it. You have to have good coordination to do it. So having a guild based on world bosses is viable too. You never know what you're going to come across. Just when you think you've seen everything in this game, something else will come along and surprise you. And mind you, I've been playing this game for, let me see here, 2,960 days I've had this game. I'm sure you can see just above that I've had this character for 2,182 of those days. So it took me a while to create my Guardian and level it to 80, but it's a hell of a character. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it to anybody looking to add something else to their repertoire or just starting out. It's a great starting class. And possibilities are infinite. You can use great swords, short swords, staffs, bows, you name it. There's all kinds of different stuff you can do with this character. But anyway, I'm going to end the video there. I've got something else I want to do this evening before I call it quits. So I appreciate you tuning into the short Guild Wars stream I had here. Plan on doing another one in the near future. But until then, I'm Unreal. You just watch Stream with an Average Gamer. You guys take care.